Hey guys, hope you're all having a great day. So right behind me here is the Sensation honeysuckle that we planted last summer. So it's been just about a year or so that this has been in the ground. It grew a little bit last year, went dormant for the season, and then started to grow this year. It actually didn't grow a whole lot in the beginning of this year. It kind of sat for a little bit, but that's also because we had cooler temperatures. And then when the heat went and we had like 90 something degree temperatures every day for a couple of weeks, which is, you know, pretty rare in southern New England, these things went like crazy. So they're flowering, they're growing, and we've actually had to try to keep up with trellising them up on this trellis. So let me show you what we've been working on. So as you can see, this is the back entrance to the fence right here. We have them growing on the back. There's just two plants, one on either side. I can just throw a picture on the screen of what they looked like when we first planted them as compared to now. But they have definitely grown quite a bit, and you can see how much they've started to grow up this trellis. The main thing we're trying to do with these two honeysuckles is we're gonna have them grow up and around this trellis here, and then also kind of have them trail along the fence over here, but not too far out. I'll put a link down below if you're interested in learning more about the Sensation honeysuckle, but we specifically went with this variety because it has really like a high scent flower. You can really smell them, and it also blooms from early spring to late summer, which is crazy because they literally bloom the entire season, which you don't see in a whole lot of things, especially a climbing vine. And they're also a compact vine, so they don't get super large. And this trellis, I'm 5'8", and you can see when I stand underneath here, you know, there's probably like another foot or so above me. So they don't get much taller than this trellis is. So they're gonna take over this trellis, but they're not gonna get too crazy besides that. And here's a side view from one of the posts that I have. I just want to show you how I've been staking them up. So I have this jute twine here that I've been wrapping around each side, and then that's just holding these up. This isn't going to be a permanent thing. This is only until they can wrap around a few times, and then they don't really need to be held from the bottom. But I just have these going up here, and what I'm going to work on today is stringing the rest of these through here and just kind of twirling them around so that way they can grab onto this post. This is the roll of jute twine I've been using. We probably got it from the dollar store or Job Lot or something like that. Not anything fancy, but this worked really well because it's rough. You can see it's not like a regular string, so it holds onto the branches and holds onto the post without slipping nearly as much. So I figured while I'm working on this today, I'm just gonna bring you guys along and kind of show what I'm doing in case you have a similar situation or are looking into getting these vines, and just show you it's actually really easy to get these to attach, but they do need some aid. They don't really climb up a whole lot on their own. So besides that, let's get started. So I've already completed one side of this trellis. So what I wanna do is with these, the jute twine, I just wanna add two more supports up here to help guide the rest of the vines up here. Once I make the cut, I'm just gonna move this vine out of the way because I'm gonna put them in after, and then I'm just gonna pull this forward, and I like to make a little bow out of this. I find it easier because then we can untie it easily so it's not a super tight knot, but we can always cut these away as well. So I'm just gonna tie it into a little bow. Doesn't need to be anything special whatsoever, just tight enough so that way this isn't going to sag down too much. But when I also put vines into here, it'll make it a little bit tighter because these are gonna be pushing against this. And I'm just gonna do this one more time. There's one thing I've noticed about the way the honeysuckle grows, and here's a perfect example of its growth habit. You can see right here that there's multiple vines that kind of wrap together, they kind of grow together, and it gives it more strength and structure. But what I have been doing is actually separating these and just making individual ones go up here. It's up to you if you want to leave these together or separate them, but I just want to separate them for now because I figured I'll get the bone structure up, I'll get all these vines up, and then it'll continue to naturally do this, and I'll get like a look of kind of both of them in the end. So I'm going to show you to the best that I can of me untangling this, but I'm just going to work one branch at a time for the most part and just kind of have them try to go up and as high as I can. So the first thing I want to do is I notice this branch right here, this kind of grew up but then it went back down again, and that's why I kind of need to guide these through. So you can see this branch right here, and there's another one that was kind of tied throughout it. So I'm just going to get this out of the way for now. And I like to do some of the biggest branches first. Sometimes you kind of have to untie all of them first, and then you can go up one at a time with individual branches. I also will mention, if you're doing this with your own plant, do not be afraid if you accidentally snap or break one of them or even a few of them. I've done that to many, and it's very resilient. It's gonna grow just fine, so don't worry about it. There's so many more vines that are gonna grow in the future. So I just want to feed it through here I got it like that, and then I'm gonna wrap it through, and I'm actually gonna walk on the other side to finish this one. So this is that same branch. It actually landed right on this light. I do think we're gonna be replacing these lights too, by the way. So I'm trying to keep these kind of away from these lights and not let them grow onto it in case we do replace them. Now from here, not exactly sure what I wanna do, but I think I'm just gonna kind of stick it up this way, and it'll find its own place up in through this trellis. It's a little bit of tedious work, but it's really not that bad. If you kind of just sit and relax doing this and take your time with it, it's actually kind of fun. I like to almost like solve puzzles like this. I think of this as like a puzzle, but I'm not gonna force you guys to sit through this. So I'll speed up the rest so you can see the rest of this and what it looks like when it's done, and we will revisit when it's all completed. So I have completed staking up all of these honeysuckles, and you can see I've kind of worked on this area up here. This branch makes it all the way over here. The one thing that's kind of difficult is over here, it's not really holding up over here. So I think I'm just gonna have to let this grow a little bit, and then I can snake it all the way up into there. And have it kind of wrap around the top. I don't really think there's anything else I can do really to stake it up, but that's fine. I can let it sit for a couple more weeks and let it grow a little bit longer. You can see from this side, there's actually quite a bit of growth over here. It looks a little messy right now, but I mean, it's just a vine, so that's how it's gonna grow. But this will end up just all being covered with green. The one thing we just need to make sure that we do is keep this section clear so that way this door can lock. See how that's there? But there's a couple branches like that one here. This one's kind of close. So I'm gonna cut those back so that way these don't become an issue for this, because we wanna make sure that this can do well. Same thing with this branch. I'm gonna cut this back because I don't want it growing into this at all. We just need to make sure that it stays functional. This side isn't growing as fast, and I think it's because this birch tree that we planted is starting to shade these out, which maybe isn't the best, but I think they're still gonna get a decent amount of sun. Because we're going to limb up this birch tree, and they'll still get a lot of sun from over here in the morning, because these arborvitaes are going to be trimmed to about either 10 or 12 feet, something like that. But yeah, so these are growing up. The one thing I just want to do is in the front over here, if I pan around and turn around for you, we planted these hinoki cypresses back in 2019, I believe, and they're getting pretty large. That's actually... it's hard to see. That's actually as tall as the trellis is. But I think I want to cut back a couple of these branches a little bit, just so that way there's a little bit of separation between these. Yeah, this looks better to me. It just kind of keeps everything in control and keeps a good shape, even though these have a very interesting character to them. I think it's just going to keep this space nice and open. All right, and here's the back, just trimmed up a little bit just to take care of the couple of branches that were on either side to make sure that this can swing out. And if I never mentioned this, we just have this little pole right here. We probably could do something a little bit more aesthetically pleasing, just so that way when we open this door that it doesn't swing into that honeysuckle and ruin it. So that's pretty much it. I'm just going to be checking up on these branches every maybe couple weeks and just making sure that I keep all these branches in check and growing where we want them to grow. And in the next couple of years, I would say by next year, they're going to be reaching the top and growing all throughout the top. I mean, we'll see how much they actually grow still by the end of this season. But in the next couple of years, this is going to be completely covered and have tons of blooms all over it. So it's going to be very fragrant when you walk through from the front yard to the backyard. Besides that, I hope you guys liked this video. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to put them in the comment section down below, and I will see you in the next one.